Welcome to Global Technology 5173. Where are we now? What time is it now? Fall 2013. And believe it or not, we are coming to the end of our semester. It has been a wonderful semester, I hope. And today is no less, even maybe the best day in the class. Now, this is your day. How about that? This is your day. When I point at you, say big shine. This is your day. Shine. Excellent.
Hi everyone. Our presentation is on CGI, commonly abbreviated as Computer Generated Imagery. This is used in Avatar movie. Coming to the definition of CGI, the application of computer interface in films, advertisements, or in other stimulations is known as computer generated imagery. This is the first animation that is developed with computer. No. The animation you're seeing in the videos are the drawing. It's actually the frames that are moving at a rate of 50 frames per second. Charles S. Suri is the first man to do this animation. He has drawn 30,000 images, and that 30,000 images are moving right now at a rate of 50 frames per second. Each image is changed into a frame. This is the first multiplane camera used by Disney, the making of the animation serials. It is 11 feet high and 7 foot plates of glass and 5 background and foreground levels. This is a traditional animation process that is used to make the animation films. The first step is storyboard, like making the blueprint of the comics, and the second is a dialogues, and the third one is a sketching. Sketching mainly includes the making models of the animation figures, and fourth is in between and making out any differences in the animations, and inking includes making colors to these figures. Painting is basically done in the computer, and inking, the basic difference between inking and painting is inking is done on the paper and painting is done in the computer applications. Then in the seventh step, background is developed to move these pictures, and at last photographing and editing. These are the common steps that are done in traditional animation process. Coming to the advanced level computer animation process, the first step is the same as a storyboard, and from the second step onwards, it is different from the traditional animation process. Second is staging, like you develop all the background pictures and the figures in the same staging stage, and in set modeling, the background is generated with the computer algorithms and the integrated circuits. And fourth is a keyframing. The main part of the animations are developed in the keyframing, shading. If any shading for the figures or just the background art of the animations is done in the shading part. Effects, if you want any visual effects or like sounds are made in the effects. And lightning includes basically 3 types of lightnings. We have key lightning, that is basically focused on the face of the image. Fill lighting, it is used in the in the hair region of the image. And the backlighting includes the lighting in the background of the image. And the other principle in the animation is 180-degree rule. If you look the picture in the north or south face, it looks like the same. And the next one is rule of thirds. Basically, the animation picture is divided into 9 sub-regions. You can edit 9 regions, any wish if you want. Spatial temporal domains is mainly used for editing. You can rotate the image in any direction if you want. Like spatial and temporal are used to enlarge and zoom in and zoom out. These are some of the persons who developed, who contributed to computer graphics. John Whitney introduced motion control photography. William Fetter in the wireframe animation. Ven Sutal and graphical user interface. These are more of them. He's Charles Suri was the first one to develop the computer animation. Oh, that's it.
So, I'm going to kind of hand this microphone back and forth here because we're doing the present and future of CGI. And so we'll start here.
So can any one of you guess which part of the photo is real over here? Like which side?
This one side of this photo is CGI and one side is not. It's a real person. So can everybody take left side? Right side?
There's no answer for this actually.
The interesting part is we could not find an answer, which is very interesting because we could not tell either. So that's how realistic it's getting.
So hyper-realistic CGI is an application of CGI where it utilizes a program called Keynote, and this application is killing the photographers and product designers because it is building products which are more realistic. So.
All right, and then the future basically is that this is basically where CGI is heading. It's heading to get more and more realistic, and everything that CGI will affect or have to do with in the future will have to do with how realistic it'll get.
So. Coming to the medical CGI. Computer-generated models are used in skeletal animation, and these models, these anatomical models, can be used both for instructional and operational purposes. In modern medical application, patient-specific models are created for computer-assisted surgery, and this can be used for knee replacement surgery. And these three-dimensional models are generated from multiple CT scans. And such models can also be used for planning aortic valve implantation, which is a common method for treating the heart disease.
All right, and basically, as of now, they're compiling data for the future to basically build a 3D model of a human that you can go from the whole body, as you see here, and go all the way down to a single cell or single protein in a human. And this will, in the future, hopefully help researchers discover, things that are unknown in the human body. So, certain things like how the nervous system works, we don't know some things on that, and then how the brain works, some stuff like that. And then the CT scans you see there of the human heart, as it becomes, as CGI becomes more realistic, this will allow doctors to do more intricate surgeries with the help of computers. So these computers can basically guide them through these CT scans, and also it'll help with robot-assisted surgeries. And it won't only be for heart; it'll be for almost every surgery you can think of. So.
Flight and driving simulation. Interactive visualization is a process where it makes the user feel real in the simulated world. So using this CGI technology, pilots can be trained to fly in the real world by using the flight simulation technique. So.
All right. And then the feature of this kind of is that it, as it gets more realistic, it'll allow these dangerous scenarios that you can do in these without having to do it in the actual thing. So without having to fly a plane upside down or something crazy, without being in a very dangerous scenario. The more realistic that CGI gets, the more scenarios that they're able to do in these simulations, and this means that the pilots and drivers will be able to handle more dynamic scenarios, which will in turn make them better drivers and pilots, I guess. So.
Coming to the marketing, Microsoft Surface Marketing uses Keynote software, and various product shots in commercials and packaging uses this Keynote software, which are all computer images. Every smartphone, tablet, cameras, cars, etc. are all used, which are used for marketing, are done with this Keynote software. And by using this software, they are able to place a clean car in a muddy location, and all this can be done quickly too.
So basically all these images that you're seeing right now, they may look real, but they are completely made by a computer. So that's just amazing. And this is why many photographers are scared for their jobs, because CGI seems to be taking them away from it. And as you can tell, and in the future, more and more companies are going to be, making their products look like this, just, without any photography involved. So.
CGI modeling. By using CGI, the modern architects are using this technique for producing architectural drawings and plans where they can produce more photorealistic images, and by this the customers can visualize the architecture, how the new architecture looks, and they can also look and feel, they also get the look and feel of the buildings. And these computer generated modeling architectures are more accurate than the traditional drawings.
And basically, the future just holds many companies just making these models before they, start building anything or even doing prototyping. So.
Movies and video games. Using CGI, visual effects can be achieved effectively, and movie makers can also create characters in the movies, and they can also replace the stuntmen for certain special effects too.
All right, we talked a little about photographers, but I was looking up the actors and how they felt about maybe losing their jobs, but what I came up with was that it'll be a long while before we get, humans that are convincing enough, moving, humans like in movies and stuff like that, that are convincing enough to us that they could be real. It's a possibility that they're real. And that's because the human face is, there's such minute movements that have to be mastered before all these, they can make it look so realistic and convincing. So.
What children may look like. This is an image of Kim and Kenya's child at 25. She may look like this. And using CGI, experts created this computer-generated image. And the computer-generated image looks very similar to the features of the parents, and they're trying to focus more on the noticeable facial features of the parents so that they can give a realistic analysis to the image they are developing.
And then basically in the future, the technology will hopefully go into where the probability of person actually looking like that will be increased, and it'll give a much more realistic picture than you see here. So.
Originally, I went in here to try to find out the different types of CGI that are used, and I found that it's more of a degree of what they're using. It can be as simple as Photoshop. If you notice this photo at the bottom of Barack Obama is actually a Photoshop photo. It's not him getting out of a plane. It was just a photo of his wife, and they put him in there. And if you look down at the bottom where that circle is, that's her hand, but it looks like he's holding her hand, but he's actually not. He was just Photoshopped into that photo. Then you have your partially generated environments, like that car is in a generated environment, but then also the car was generated, so it's a completely generated environment. We use CGI to make the impossible seem possible. How many people have seen The Matrix, the movie? All right, all 6 of you. Well, that whole scene where he's dodging bullets, he was generated. That's not actually the actor at all, and they're able to circle him using CGI, and that was one of the most state-of-the-art scenes at that point in time. They've got fully created characters like the golem creature in the Lord of the Rings movies, and the actors actually worked with an actor that was there that ended up getting swapped out with the creature golem, but they were able to basically have actors interacting with a CGI character. Fully developed characters and environments. These are movies that actually starred actors as CGI characters, so they use their motion control on them, but basically it's animation or replication of those actors. Well, they use photographs, cross-sections, magnetic 3D digitizing, which is the thing I found the most interesting. They can make a small version of the character that was molded by hand, put it in the magnetic field 3D digitizing device, and it'll basically do a 3D scan on it with the different magnetic fields. That can be uploaded into the computer, and then with rigging, they can move that character around, or maybe even incorporating in with motion control with the actors themselves, which we'll see here in a second. Oh, CAD programs. How many of you used a CAD program to design a part or multitude of pieces? Anybody in here ever done that? Well, that right there is CGI. You're actually developing your own CGI to make an item that doesn't exist. It only exists as a representation on a computer screen, which I also found was very interesting. Every computer we use with these images and the, like, say, Microsoft Windows and things like that, that is a form of CGI, because none of that stuff actually exists anywhere but inside the computer. Then they have computer sculpting, which you're starting basically with a block, and it renders smaller and smaller trapezoids until it almost looks smooth. The final product there is actually not smooth, but the trapezoids are so small it appears to be smooth. They reuse old assets, so there's maybe characters from other movies they can render in a different way and use the exact same assets they used before to save time and money. And then as time goes on, more and more things will be compiled and used. Motion capture, this is really popular right now because human motion is hard to recreate on a computer screen without the actors. So they use markers covered with a reflective material, and many different cameras are used to record the actor and just the balls. And if you see there how they have the rendering on the left side there, that's basically the actor's movements are put into the, that would be a robot. And then Tom Hanks there and that character he played in the Christmas movie he was in, how realistically the same they look from the action he's doing. And that was through motion capture. Like this. Before she starts with the ethics, there's one thing that I noticed in basically the actors losing their jobs or being represented incorrectly. In the early 90s, there were some actors that they used in a marketing campaign using CGI, but the actors had no idea they were in this marketing campaign. And this was found to be unethical. But they're like, hey, we created these photos. They just seem like the same image, or they appear to be that person, but it's not really that person. So there was a big lawsuit over it, and they decided that the actors actually own their image, so they can't be used in marketing if it seems to look like them.
Today I'm going to talk about ethics in computer-generated imagery. Computer-generated imagery is most widely used. The computer-generated imagery is used in the military to prepare for defending against the war. The violence in the computer games, most of the children are addicted towards the computer games, and most of the violent computer games they spend most of the time in playing the computer games and the video games, which are very violent, which makes them to have aggressive behavior. It is not ethical to have the children addicted towards the computer games or video games. The technology is rapidly becoming a fashion to many trial rooms. The computer simulation becomes more problematic, failing to uphold the standards of accuracy and also misrepresent the reality, which fails for the standards of accuracy, fail to uphold a standard in fairness and the violent standards of decency and the public morality. The computer-generated imagery is mostly widely used in the courtrooms, and they can misrepresent the reality and also the difference in the biased representation and that have unreliable evidences in the courtrooms. But it will be very helpful for the judges to have a clear representation of the evidences in the courtrooms. And CGI is very complex, and even it may be confusing to the judges to make a correct decision. It might be difficult for the judges to take a decision on the misrepresentation of the reality. And also, it is most widely used for the flight simulation. In the flight simulation, the pilots could not able to get a real-time experience. When they go to the actual flying, they can able to encounter turbulences and even the engine failure that cannot be simulated in the flight simulation. And also, they can have a engine failure and which cannot be trained in the flight simulation. So it's better to have a real-time experience in the flying rather than going for training in the flight simulation. Though it is cost effective and it's very cheaper to have a flight simulation training, but I personally feel it's go for a real-time experience in the actual flying. And it's very useful for the civil aviation pilots to go for the flight simulation.
Another thing I'm sure we've all heard before is the hyper-violence in video games and movies. Basically letting people see something that they could never create without CGI, whether it be like the Grand Theft Auto game where you're stealing cars and killing people, or a movie that's ultra gory and some psychopath killer is killing a bunch of people. Without CGI, we would have never saw that. But because we see it, then that's like, I feel like that would be poisoning to our minds. And there's that huge argument of what age kids should be able to see that kind of thing, whether it be 13 years old or 17 years old. But I'm not sure how they can even determine that, because I'm probably never going to see someone brutally murdered in front of me, but I have seen a movie where that's happened, so now I can say that I've seen that, and it was created by CGI. So I feel like there's an ethical dilemma in what they create and what we can see, or seems that we're seeing, and it's a desensitizing thing. I think that is it. There's our references. You guys can have some of those. Those are real fun. Are any questions? No questions. All right. Oh, still questions. You got a
There's
question?
a microphone. Any questions? Questions. One picture equals 1,000 words. Is this gone with the wind now? Because pictures can say lies.
Well, I mean, now you got like you can have an entire team of 100 people working on one photo or one scene for 100 hours to create the perfect scene. So, I mean, it's still making the same statement that a photo would. It just doesn't have the background of an actual event that happened.
So reality is no more.
Sort of.
Yeah. Okay, here is another question. Would you please?
On the subject of basically putting actors out of work, wouldn't it take more work on the point is CGI? I mean, it's not past that tipping point of being cost effective in order to do it, is it?
For just the actor, right?
Right. In the concept of CGI putting actors out of work.
Well, the whole point of what I explained before was that's the future. That's the possibility that, because we don't know the future, but that's a possibility that may happen, but it's not presently happening right now. So.
But currently you're correct. Whereas they would spend a lot of money on an entire team of people to create that, and then you'd have to hire some sort of actor to do the motion sensing. But as time goes on, they're compiling all this information, and it'll be easier and easier to create CGI. I mean, probably 10 years from now, one person will be able to work on an entire scene by themselves.
Other stimulations is known as computer generated imagery. This is the first animation that is developed with computer. No. This is the first multiplane camera used by Disney. The making of the animation serials. It is 11 feet high and 7 foot plates of glass and 5 background and foreground levels. This is a traditional animation process that is used to make the animation films. The first step is storyboard, like making the blueprint of the comic.
To be the best day in the class. Now this is your day. How about that? This is your day. When I point at you, say big shine. This is your day. Shine. Excellent.
Hi everyone. Our presentation is on CGI, commonly abbreviated as computer generated imagery. This is used in Avatar movie. Coming to the definition of CGI, the application of computer interface in films, advertisements, or in the animation, using the videos, the drawing. It's actually the frames that are moving at a rate of 50 frames per second. Charles S. Suri is the first man to do this animation. He has drawn 30,000 images, and that 30,000 images are moving right now at a rate of 50 frames per second. Each image is changed into a frame.
Welcome to Global Technology 5173. Where are we now? What time is it now? Fall 2013. And believe it or not, we are coming to the end of our semester. It has been a wonderful semester, I hope. And today is no less, even maybe